Hey guys, Claude here. All right, so today I want to talk about this. This is Pat Martino's book called Linear Expressions. It's sort of been trending on YouTube. I saw a couple videos about it, so I wanted to know what all the fuss is about and picked myself up a copy. So I've been a Pat Martino fan for a while. I always loved his approach to the guitar. Like, he would just play these long lines. And it always sounded really cool. So I had no idea that he had a book. So thanks to those other guitarists on YouTube that are talking about it. And I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. Now, if you watch some of those other videos, they talk a lot about how Pat would kind of reimagine things and put everything into a minor key. That's not what I want to talk about. What I got from this, like the big takeaway, was really just like a new concept, a new idea of lines. Okay, so when I first started out, I would think in terms of licks, and then I had heard of riffs, but I never really understood how important they are. I got really into riffs and blues riffs and stuff like that in recent years. But this is sort of like a new animal. So it's a little bit hard to explain, but let me just play you something from the book, and then I'll try to explain it. So he has these things called activities, and they're not exactly scales, but they sort of sound like scales a little bit. So here's one of them. So as you can hear, it's got a very linear quality. Hence the name Linear Expressions. It's almost like it's starting up a blues scale, or like a minor. But then it goes back down, and then it goes to a different note. And then again, this part sort of sounds like a scale again. But then we go back, kind of jump around a little bit. Little chromaticism, but whoop. Again, this kind of sounds like a scale, but then he jumps over a note, goes back, and does all this. Okay, kind of messed it up at the end. But anyway, you get the idea. There's something very compelling about this to me, where it's like, it's got this linear sound. It's not, arpeggios. And it's not exactly a scale either. But there's sections of it that sound like scales. And it just gives me like a new perspective, a new way to think about it. So, when I'm thinking about blues, the kind of the typical or traditional approach that I've been coming from is more of like shorter musical ideas, kind of more of the B.B. King kind of school of thought. Now, if you look at some of the old cliche blues licks, they sort of do this in terms of like jumping around. If you look at a blues lick like this, notice it goes from the third to the fifth and then jumps to the root and back. So, as a blues man, like, I'm trying to apply some of these ideas, and I'm thinking, can I start with a pentatonic scale and use some of those ideas? So again, when I play this, it's similar in the sense that I'm jumping from the root to the from the fifth to the root and back, and then continuing on with the scale. So I started coming up with my own Pat Martino style types of lines or activities, as he calls them, but trying to make it a little bit more bluesy, a little bit more pentatonic. Maybe something like this. Let's see. something like that. One more time. I think that was a little bit different. Maybe I went down to here. Okay, let's try that one more time. There we go. So what am I doing here? Well, I'm basically trying to apply this idea, this linear expression type of idea, but make it more simple for my simple brain, and just play with the pentatonic. So if I go up the pentatonic scale, I can go back and then kind of pivot up to the 6th degree, and then continue back down again. But then when I get to this string, I'll do another one of those. Hit the blue note, which is the flat 5th. Okay, so that's just one example. But the basic idea, I mean, you gotta like play through the examples in Pat's book. But another one's kind of that he teaches kind of starts like. Again, there's a very linear quality to it, but at the same time, it's not straight up and down scales. There's parts where he will jump over a note, and then there's parts where he'll go back and fill in a note in between two of the previous notes. So it's a lot of food for thought, and it just gives me a whole new perspective rather than playing simple blues licks. It's making me want to play more things, It gets more into like a bebop sound automatically just because you're hitting more notes. Okay, so it can just give you lots of ideas. So I'm going to follow up this lesson with some more concepts that hopefully explain my thinking process and what I've been able to get from these ideas and from these great players. So yeah, that's my take on linear expressions, and we'll talk to you soon.